Hello, my name is Frédéric Morils, and on the third part I am going to explain how to troubleshoot this hydraulic power pack. But first, let's have a look at all the components. So here we have the electric motor, the coupling, the hydraulic pump. The flow is going up to the main relief valve, located here. Then it is going to the leaf beam relief valve, located here. Then you have the closed center leaf beam directional valve, located here, and the leaf beam cylinder. So here you have the pressure switch controlling the full container light indicator here. So here is the bypass valve between the ram and the leaf beam. So it's located behind there. So here we have the complete switch valve. And finally the ram cylinder. So let's look directly at the component on the pressure valve. So here is the switching pressure valve, here below the valve. Here is the pressure switch for the number of cycles that we find on the machine here. Here is the shut-off valve that we find on the side of the switching valve here, and we can see there is a pin on it here. And here is the release valve protecting the ram and the switch valve, adjusted at 210 bar. First step, the ram is going backward. The electrical motor is on, the pump is giving flow, going to the release valve. Here it's blocked, going to the bypass valve, it's on, so it's moving to the top, going to the switching valve, going to the cylinder is going backward. So now let's look in detail the switching valve. The flow is going through the valve up to the cylinder. At the maximum rear position, the pressure is reaching 150 bar, opening the switching pressure valve and piloting the main pressure valve. That is the valve here. So the electric motor is on, the pump is giving flow to the bypass valve that is on, going to the switching valve that is on as well, going to the cylinder that is going forward. So let's look at the valve when we are at the maximum forward position. Since we are at the rear position, the release valve is open at 210 bar. So the pressure is going up there, and we see there is a pilot there that is piloting the forward switching pressure valve. The pressure is still going up to the cylinder, but since the cylinder is not moving, there is no return flow. So no flow in the return line means no pressure. So even if we go through the switching pressure valve here, there is no flow. So the valve will return. So the electric motor is on, the flow is going up to the bypass valve that is on, going through the switch valve, and the cylinder is going forward. Let's put the manometer on the power pack and let's start our troubleshooting. First, we are going to understand again the operation of the switching valve at the maximum forward position with internal hydraulic cylinder leak and consequences. Maximum forward position means pressure relief valve is open or not depending on the situation. But in all cases, the switching pressure valve will be open by the pilot. Pressure is going to the cylinder inside here, and the orange arrow is showing the leak of the seal. So supposed to be we have no flow, but because of the leak of the cylinder we have flow. is going through the valve and does keep the valve on. So the cylinder will never switch backward because of the internal leak of the cylinder. So let's test the cylinder and adjust the valve. So let's open the lock nut of the switching pressure valve, and by tying the valve at the maximum, the ram will stop at the rear position with maximum pressure. Now we can start the machine and wait that the ram come and stop at the rear position. Next step, we are going to disconnect the hydraulic hose on the return side of the cylinder. We can plug the hydraulic hose side of the switching valve. Now start the compactor and look at the seal internal leak coming from the cylinder fitting. We can do the test without the plug, but we are going to have oil flow on the side of the hydraulic hose. Of course, the test has to be carried out on both cylinders, but as we could see on the video here, the cylinder seals are fine. Now we will adjust the switching pressure valve, and to be able to do that, we will first put 150 bar on the release valve. Then we will slowly open the switching pressure valve, and the main switching valve will start while reaching 150 bar. Then we will tie the nut and test the machine for several cycles. Now let's adjust the pressure switch container light indicator at 160 bar. But to be able to do that, let's put timer T2 and T3 to 0. So let's go to parameter, select T2, OK, let's put it at 0, OK, X, let's go to T3, OK, let's select, let's put it down to 0, OK, X, and let's check again. OK, so let's go to the 0, X, and let's go to T3 to check again. OK, and it's so 0, so OK. Now we will remove the lock nut on the pressure switch. Open the shut valve located on the side 4 to 5 turn. Open 2 to 3 turn the relief valve. And tied 2 to 3 turn the pressure switch. Let's start the machine and adjust the relief valve at 160 bar. Now we will open or reduce the pressure switch until the machine turns off, meaning that the full container light indicator gets on. So now let's readjust T2 and T3. Let's select parameter. OK. Let's go to T2. OK. OK. Let's go and put 2. OK. Let's go out X. Let's select T3. OK. Let's put 6. OK. Let's go out and check again on T2. So here we have 2. Let's go on T3. And here we have 6. So we are OK. Now we will disconnect the pressure switch to be able to adjust the release valve located on the switching valve. So first let's adjust the release valve at 210 bar, and be careful when closing the shut valve, the pressure may increase. 220 is little too much. Readjust if necessary, and when the adjustment is finished, tie the shut valve and the nuts on the relief valve. So next we're going to adjust the relief valve of the leaf bin. Open the lock nut. Okay. Start the compactor and read the pressure by putting the leaf bin at its maximum up position and adjust the relief valve at 170. Then tie the lock nut on the release valve. So next we will adjust the main relief valve, the one at the top. We will open the lock nut, disconnect the electric connector of the bypass valve located behind here, and as soon as we will start the machine, the pressure will go up. So we will adjust the relief valve at 230 bar, and then we will tie the nut. So now we will put back the connector on the bypass valve and on the pressure switch. Next step, we will come back to the troubleshooting through the reading of the hydraulic schematic and try to understand step by step the way to solve any problem. So we have a compactor block at the rear position with only 120 bar. So on this hydraulic schematic, let's follow the pressure line and define the component that can possibly bring such a problem. The pump can be the problem. This hydraulic hose located inside the tank can also be the problem. This outlet cannot be the problem, otherwise we will have an external leak. This external hose would show an external leak, so it cannot be the problem. The release valve, of course, can be part of the problem. The directional valve can also be part of the problem. The bypass valve can be the problem also. The pressure switch cannot really be the problem, or we will have an external leak. The switching valve, of course, can be the problem. And each cylinder can be part of the problem as well. Total, we found 7 components, and for the cylinder, I already showed you how to test it by disconnecting the return hose and looking if there is any flow coming from the side of the cylinder. So both cylinders are okay. Now we will disconnect the electrical connector on the bypass valve and go back and look at the electrical schematic. So here the bypass valve is closed and we have 2 possibilities. One, we have 220 bar on the gauge, so clearly our problem was coming from the switching valve, but unfortunately we still have 120 bar. So let's check the bypass valve by disconnecting the pressure hose on the cylinder. Start the machine. 2 possibilities again. First, there is no leak going out of the hose, so the switching valve and the bypass valve are okay. Second, you have a leak, so you shall replace the defective bypass valve. Now we will test the directional valve. So here we can see it's a closed center. So by disconnecting any of the 2 hoses on the leaf pin and after starting the compactor, if there is no leak, the directional valve is okay. Otherwise, we have a leak and we shall replace it. Let's do it. So disconnect the hose, start the machine, and as we can see, there is no leak. Now we will look at the pressure relief valve, and the only way to test it is to take it out and shift the main relief valve with the leaf bin relief valve. After starting the machine, if the pressure becomes 170 bar instead of 120, clearly your main relief valve is defective. But if there is no difference, your main relief valve is okay. Now we will look at the pressure hose inside the hydraulic tank, remove the complete filter, and look inside the tank for any unusual oil movement. So, if there is no oil movement, the hose is okay, then the hydraulic pump is the defective component. Now we are finished, so we can remove the hydraulic jauge. Put back the cover of the electric panel. Close the trolley and lock it with a screw on both sides to avoid any problem during the transportation. Close the cover on both sides. And clean the machine. Hope this video was very useful, and Sakria Industries Service Team is staying at your disposal for any furthermore information.